Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm taking the session on practical approach of application security and understanding on OWASP top 10. Application security is the process of making applications more secure by finding, fixing, and enhancing the security of the application. Here, I'll be focusing on mainly in the web application security. There are several standards available for securing the web application like OWASP, CVE, NIST, cybersecurity checklist, etc. Now, in this case, I am focusing on the OWASP top 10. Now, what is this? So, OWASP is basically a application security project, okay, which is founded in 2004, and it gives us a checklist periodically so that we can check the new vulnerabilities and how to fix them also. Here is the top 10 vulnerability checklist. So A1 is injection, A2 broken authentication, A3 sensitive data exposure, 4 XML entities, XML external entities, broken access control, security misconfiguration, cross-site scripting, insecure deserialization, using the components with known vulnerabilities, and insufficient logging and monitoring. Let us explain this. Okay, injection. Injection means that is we want to inject something. It may be into our database. It may be into our web server. So in this case, when we are sending the hostile data to an interpreter, that is, for example, SQL, LDAP, or command line, so it basically cannot filter those data. So for that reason, we need filtering. Filtration is needed for that section. Here, as you can see, when we browse a website, that is site.com, in our web browser, there may be several sites we are visiting simultaneously. Then when we are visiting the site a.com, then it automatically sends a GET request to the web server. Here you can see that site A. Then it may be some several process going on with their databases, or maybe it not. So injection, sending hostile data to interpreter, like I said before. So here I give you an example that those who are familiar with the structured query language, that's SQL. So sometimes we do process in this way, this manner, that we do not filter the input of user. Here, as you can see, here we are selecting the accounts details, that is select star from accounts, where some customer ID is something, and the input is given by the user is getting filtered here, getting fitted here. So if someone or some attacker try to inject some other things that is not desired for the application, that it may cause damage to that application. Like if someone supplies that drop table accounts, then that will automatically delete the accounts table. So how to prevent those things? So first of all, we have to separate the code and data. For SQL injection, it is mandatory to use the parameterized queries. That is, in previous section, here you can see that their request.get parameter, it is basically written into Java or similar type of application, and it is not actually here parameterized query is not used. So we have to use the parameterized queries and then validate the data that can be entered and escape the special characters. Here you can see that I have given the special characters, that is single quote, semicolon, and dash dash. So let's go to the practical session. So I am using here two VMs. Uh, in one VM, I have installed some vulnerable web applications in Ubuntu, and in the second VM, I have installed the Kali Linux. In the first VM, it is running the web application; those are vulnerable, and in the using Kali, we will try to exploit those things. So let's finish those things. And WASP Nuclei basically a open source web application vulnerability testing website where we can easily test the common vulnerabilities uh, and we can improve ourselves in the field of security auditing and those things. So in this section, I am going to uh, in, going to show the practical on basis of injection on the basis of SQLi. So now, as you can see that here I have a form, and after entering the username and passwords, that we can view the account details. So if I type some wrong words, then let's see what happens. It's saying that bad username or password. So if I type some arbitrary name and try to give some arbitrary random password into this application, then it's showing the bad username and password again. So the commonly used username is for any admin section. If there is an admin section, that is commonly used username is admin. Let's type admin and type a password, type a random password. Then you can see that bad username and password is coming again. So uh, when we are trying the random username and password, it is not working. So the one of the major thing is uh, of injecting is SQLi injection, SQL injection. So let's try something odd, that is using special character or something. Here we can see that the result giving us that the special characters are accepting in this application. In this case, you can easily see that the single quote is there. So if we type this much code and here single quote, okay, let's do some other thing so you can understand. Here you can see that some errors is coming out from that application. That is, select star from account where username is something and my given input is there. So I have entered this password. So let's say like this, and try to give the account details. And here you can see that the admin names and password and with their signature are getting filtered into this result. So what happens in this case? I have used this thing. So here you can see that single quote, that is in, if you analyze this thing, here you can see that here one single quote is there. So let's copy this thing. Let's copy this thing into a text file. Yeah. Now, when I am typing, one equals to one, it's giving me this result. What happens in this case, that actually this thing is happening. In this case, what happens that here the username, and here I am using OR query, okay, OR operator. Here 1 equals to 1 always results true, give us the return true. And then here I am using this much thing, that is dash, double dash, and space, then double dash. What it is doing, that it is just commenting out this thing. So in that application, what is running in the background, that is select star from username something or 1 equals to 1. So it always gives us that true value. So that's why here the username and passwords are got automatically filtered. So in this case, we can easily get the username and passwords. So this application is very much vulnerable with the SQL injection. So let's go to the again. Okay. Now broken authentication. So here the same thing happening, that we are requesting from our browser to that web application. Then we see what happens to next. So in broken authentication, what happens? Actually, it may be weak session management. Suppose first question arises that what is session? Okay, so session is basically the user data that is stored in the web server. Session is basically the user data that is stored in the web server. So, and another thing that is similar to it, it is cookie. So what is cookie? The cookie is the user information that is stored into the client side. It may be our browser, within our browser. So weak session management, uh, credential stuffing, brute force, forgotten password, no multi-factor authentication is there, and session do not expire. So in weak session management, what happens that suppose we log into a application, then someone gets our session ID value. That is in the server side, that is not actually checking who is login or from which browser the authenticated user is being logged in. So in that case, if someone steals your session ID, then he or she will automatically be logged in. Credential stuffing. Credential stuffing means we are searching for the credential that is available in or getting filtered out from that application. Brute force means we are actually sending the request, or by a automatic process we are targeting a website so that it expose some username or password, or getting it cracked and automatically logged in into that application. In forgotten password module, uh, we may found many things that if some alteration is there in the email ID or something, uh, as an uh, it may be the man in the middle attack. So the username and password will go automatically uh, went to the wrong person. So in that case, broken authentication is also suffer. So and session did not expire, don't expire, and session has to be expired after checking the it is logged in from the which browser, which IP is getting logged in. In this, actually authentication should be there. So prevention, what are the prevention? Use good authentication library, use multi-factor authentication, enforce strong passwords, detect and prevent brute force or stuffing attack. So good authentication libraries we can use. There are several good authentication libraries can be used, and we can use the Google Captcha also in that case. Enforce the strong password mechanism, that is enforcing that user to uh, password that is not commonly used. Okay, and the other thing is in that password there should be a capital letter, small letter, and a special character included. And detect and prevent the brute force. When we are sending the request to a web server, we are sending the request to the web server. Then what happens that the server is not checking the request properly. Okay, when we implement a captcha, then you will see that sometimes we have to enter the correct captcha, then we can go to the further stage. That is, in this case, how can we uh, actually how can we prevent the brute force attack? So when we are entering the wrong thing or wrong captcha, that thing is not going to the same. The form submission is not getting correctly authenticated. Okay, so let's check. Let's go to the practical session. So here, let's go to the web section and broken authentication. Let's use brute force. Okay, before brute force, we can okay, let's use brute force. So for using brute force, we need a list of username or password. So here, the same thing I'm trying. The test here, the messages comes out that account does not exist. The account does not exist. That is, it is very crucial information. Then if we type the admin name, then it's showing that password incorrect. That means we can conclude that the test user is not exist in that application, but the admin user is exist in that application, but we don't know that password. What is the password of the admin? So there are By default, several passwords are used. Let's say commonly used password in GitHub or something. There is a checklist. Here you can see that checklist published some commonly used password list. Here you can get the 10 million password list, or they are filtering out, and we have downloaded the same thing, and we will try to exploit the brute force attack in this application. So first of all, here I will be using a proxy server. Proxy server is nothing but the intermediary between the client side and server side, client and server. Okay, so in Firefox, I have installed a Foxy proxy. That is, here I am using in the browser extension, that is Proxy, and another tool, that is Suite, or you can say Suite. So here, and now I am running the Suite. So actually, I am here using the Suite Community Edition, and this is more than enough for this lesson. And we are running. So in this section, we will first of all set the proxy. Okay, here in this section, we will go to the proxy tab, then go to the options. Here in that Foxy proxy, we are using the 8585 port. So to intercept any request in the bar, we have to use the 8585 port. So I am using the 8585 port in the Suite. So now target. We have to specify the target. So first of all, we go to the target tab, then we will add the target into our scope. So our target is this side. So I'm copying these things and pasting to this section. Okay. Now we enable the Foxy proxy. That is, we have already set for the Suite. Now here I'm going to choose the proxy, and try to. Now you will see that the request is automatically intercepted by the Suite. That is, get request is coming, and here you can see the host, that is host name, that is our 192.168.56.102, and here you can see that session ID is clearly visible. Now I am going to forward the request. Now we will do the brute force attack. So first of all, we know that admin user exists in the application. So I am typing the admin user as username, admin, and password, a random password, let's say test. So after clicking that submit button or login button, then the request is automatically came to our Suite. Then we will send this request to intruder. We will send this request into the intruder. Now our target is 192.168.56.102 and port number we are using, that is 80. Now position. Here by dollar sign, in the middle of dollar sign, it indicates the variable. It acts as a variable. So we do not need these things. So we automatically clear this thing. So now we are want to crack the password of admin user. So we want that a variable should act as password. That's why I am adding this variable, this much variable, that is dollar dollar in the middle of test. So here the variable is test. Now go to the payload. We will going to use the simple payload for this lesson. So here you can paste the list of password or sample list, but I have already downloaded and some modified the checklist, modified the commonly used password. Now here you can see that there are several commonly used password lists are automatically get filtered into this section. Okay, now if we start attacking, then what will it do? It will send the request, the same request, that is username and username is admin and all things are same, but the password is different for, that is the password will be loaded from this section one by one. So let's click the start attack button. So here is saying that some functionality may not work. So here you can see that. So let's click one thing, one option. So here what is getting attacked? Here you can see that we are selecting 1 2 3 4 5 6 payload. That is the same request is uh, uh, sending to the server, that post request, and that is for the password for 1 2 3 4 5 6. For the second payload, we are sending the payload password. In this section, you can say that password equals to password, and for QWERTY, you can see that it's QWERTY, and for Dragon, it is Dragon. So in this way, the intruder attack is happening. It will take some time, so let's wait for some time. Here you can see that uh, here the request number, the payload that is going to attack, the status code of that application, or response code you can say, uh, and error, timeout, and length. This thing is very much important for our observation. So let's finish this work. Let it get finished. So here we are sending the username admin and different with different payloads. So it will take some time. That is our main password list. I have stored into the desktop. So in this case, actually, uh, we are getting the list here. We can getting the list that is commonly used. For you can do this for any organization. Suppose you know about that organization. Suppose in ABC organization, the commonly used password may be ABCDE or ABC123, or it may be ABC@123. So okay, okay. Now it is finished. So you can see that if we sort by the length, you can see that some different response length is coming. That is with the payload admin pass. So here what happens that the payload admin pass is used. Let's see the other responses and the response of this. For other responses, we are getting this much things. For these responses, for this request, we are getting the response 302 found. So it is a very helpful information. So let's try to log in as admin. So now we are dropping. Now we are turning it off the intercept. Then you can see that you are automatically logged in. Okay. So in this case, if we log out and use the admin, I'm using the admin username and password is admin pass. Then you can see that user authenticated. So user getting logged in with the admin pass password. So let's go to the slide again. Now, sensitive data exposure. So, in this case, what happens that when we are requesting or sending some request to the server may expose some sensitive data that may be server version name, server version, and uh, server name, and database version, database name, and others other information as well. So yeah, so in this case, actually what happens that uh, it may expose some user information, or it may expose some sensitive information about the server, and personal information of the user as well. So how to prevent those things? So we should store the desired data that is needed, that is filtration. Again, the concept of filtration comes here. Then encrypt the storage, or encrypt the sensitive information part, and use the strong cryptographic algorithm. So some examples are there. In this case, if we go to the information tab, here we are going to the information disclosure PHP info page. Suppose the application uh, exposing this much information that is very much vulnerable. That is, you can see that Apache, here you can see that PHP version, this is used in this case, and as a server Ubuntu is getting used, and the version is 18.0.4.7, and there are several INI files path, and you can see that specific server that is using that is Apache 2.4.29, and these things. So in this case, it is showing some server information, but it may be some other information as well. Okay, it may be some database information. It may be some critical information about the user. Anything. So XML external entities. So what is XML? XML basically extensible markup language. Why we use the XML? Sometimes we use the XML to store the data, or to view the data in structured form. Okay, so in this case, the attack is happening in the web server itself, as you can see that. So if the application accepts the XML and assumes that it is safe for the application, then uh, it may reveal some server side information. Okay, here you can see that access E, that is the external entity, XML external entity. So in this, using this, the attacker trying to view the system information of etc password file. Okay, so it will reveal the password information of that file. Okay, uh, so how to avoid these things? To prevent this thing, uh, we should avoid the XML. XML is not in safer side for storing the data. So we should use the other options to store or view the data. Uh, you can use the modern libraries as well, or if you want to use the XML, then validate itself. Okay, that is no one can add the external entities. Okay, that is XSE. So I will do this later. I will show in some other way that will reveal the etc password section. That's why I'm not showing in this section. Okay, when we insert this section, insert this code, that is this much of code will reveal the etc password file. So broken access control. So broken access control means suppose we are getting logged in as a normal user. As a normal user, we are logged in, but we can browse the admin section as well. In this example, you can see that the cited or being a normal user can view the site.com/admin/user management, or a normal user can view the critical information of other user, that is by manipulating the user IDs. That is in this section. In this section, you can see that uh, user, that is, it is revealing the user information who has the ID 7. So how to prevent those things? So use proven code and scrutinize the code. Deny access by default. By default, it should be a guest user uh, whose access is limited, and store the log and analyze the logs and alerts. Rate the limit to the resources. So here I am going to the broken access control and secure direct object references. Then I'm going to the text file viewer. Here you can see that it is showing this file. So once again we are using we'll be using the bar. So let's go to the bar suite and turn on the intercept, and now click on the view. Here you can see that in this section, uh, a file that is requested from the www.textfiles.com hacking audit tools.txt. So what happens if we try something else? That is, I have already discussed about the etc password section, etc passwd, and send the request. Now you can see that it automatically capturing or viewing the etc password file. That is, these are the users which are in our application or in that server, not our application, it is in our server. These accounts are in our server. So, and another thing, okay, let's Go to the slide again. Now security mix configuration. Then it is again the attack is happening into the web server itself. So some security misconfigurations are there. Okay, and unnecessary features are available or enabled. Default accounts are not removed. Error messages exposing sensitive information. So how to prevent these things? To prevent this thing, first of all, we need a repeatable building process. That is uh, actually for every product or every application, that is mandatory. When we are testing the security of that application, or it may be the server or something else, then we can find some vulnerability as well. So for that section, uh, after getting the vulnerability, we should patch the system, that is patch the application. That's why in our mobile application the security patches, or in our antivirus the security patches are there. Okay, disable the unused services. Okay, suppose in case of web application, what happens that sometimes we try to upload a file, or try to upload the uh, what say production software into a server. Then we forget we are doing that using the FTP or SSH services. But after uploading or after completing our desired task, we forget to close those things. So that in this case, you can say that after doing that particular task, when that is not needed, then we will close those things. Okay, and use the tools to review the settings. There are several automatic tools are available. There are several auditing or scanning tools are available. Uh, so we can use those things. Cross-site scripting. Cross-site scripting, basically, you can say that uh, try to when attacker is trying to inject something and trying to get the response. Okay, when attacker trying to get the response, or trying to steal the cookies, uh, then attacker first do the thing, that is client side scripting. Okay, that is attacker. The aim of the attacker is to inject the malicious code to the uh, web application. Okay, so you can see that in this case, when we are visiting, in this case, user is requesting uh, or sending the request to, or typing the URL in the web browser. Uh, in that browser, some attacks are happened. Then the request is automatically uh, get into the another site, that is site B. That is user trying to send the. Okay, here user user is typing cited.com in that website, in a particular browser. Then the some type of attack is happening, and the request is going to the another site as well. Okay, so so I have already told these things. So how to prevent those things. Okay, let's see some example, then we will see the prevention mechanism. This section, now I am turning the intercept off. In this section, we are not, right now we are not using the bar. So okay, in this section also we have, okay, okay, let's see what happens. We type something, it wants to say 6.10, and find something. So we are trying to intercept this thing. There's nothing. So just type some malicious script. Let's see what happens. Here I am using just simple script to test the vulnerability in this application. Let's see what else. Oh, it's showing the alert. So if we change this thing to document dot cookie, here you can see that it is showing the session ID of this particular application, or user is logged in, the user admin is logged in and showing its session ID. So attacker will do some manipulation in this section, and in this case attacker may create what I say, may create some reverse request, that is from this server the request is automatically go to that server. uh, if attacker do that section, then the session ID is automatically going to pass into that web server, then attacker can easily view those things. So in this case, attacker may use the netcat. So yeah, okay. Here you can see that netcat. Basically, netcat can send request or uh, get response as well. Uh, netcat basically a service, you can say. So in this case, we can see space. Here you can see that socket. If we enable socket, that will capture the request. ABP, we want that port and L, that is for listening mode. Okay, type these things. Oh, now you can see that server is listening in this particular port. Okay, what attacker usually do that? Attacker writes the malicious script and it will automatically captured in this section. Okay. So what's next? Uh, so how can we prevent this thing? Okay. First of all, we have to filter the user data. We cannot trust the user. Okay. So we need to sanitize the data. That is, in this case, if we here you can say that the script is getting sanitized, and here it is translated into some other format. So in this case, we should sanitize the user information. Okay, that is user supplied information. Use appropriate encoding for the context. We can use any encoding format like this 64 or and then another thing. Use the templating format that assemble HTML safely, and use content security policy as well. So for content security policy, you can visit the contentsecuritypolicy.com and security policy. Here, this is the site where we can restrict about the which script can be uh, run or which script is whitelisted in particular web application. So here you can see that script src tag. So the default section is in this section, the source list references. Uh, we can wildcard the star for wildcard anything. Okay, so if we write this thing, script src, that is the only the script that is requested from the same server can be executed. Other than the server, the script will not execute. So there are several things. Suppose we want to execute a particular script that is written and written in the server. That is, you can say that script something alert abc or something. Then we can use that for that particular section. We can use the nonce section, nonce attribute. If we add this nonce attribute, then the application will allow only that application that is written in the nonce section. Okay, if it may be the it is basically a random number. Okay, or it may be encoded number. Okay, so in this way we can restrict a script. Okay, here are some examples are there. Here you can see that allow everything but only from the same origin. Default src self. In this section we can allowing those resources which are in the same origin, that is in this from the same server. So developer, those who are using the scripts for getting into the safer side, they should use the content security policy. Okay. So insecure deserialization, basically it happens into the web server itself. What happens that in some programming languages we do some we trust the user data. In programming languages, it happens that we serialize and deserialize. Uh, in the next picture, I am explaining this thing. That is, say it is a Java application or any kind of object-oriented application. Object is there. Okay, here you can see the object from the right side image. Object is converted into the stream of bytes. Then it is stored into the application. It may stored into a file, it may store into the database, or it may store into the memory. After that, deserialization is happened. So in this case, what happens that from the text file or from the file, we get the stream of bytes. Then the language, the programming language converts it into the object. That is, we trusting the object. So in this case, attacker sends a serialized object, okay, and with some malicious code. Okay, here yes, the attacker sending some serialized object with some bad stuff, that is some with some malicious code, and it is going to the web server, that is website. Then the deserialization process is happening, and as the attacker injects or sends some bad stuff or malicious code, then some malicious operations are automatically happening. It may delete something, it may delete some user information as well, execute some codes. So in this case, the data should avoid the serialization and deserialization object. Use the signature to detect tampering. That is the main important part. If we want that the server will do the serialization and deserialization thing, then we should use a signature, okay, so that no one can tamper the data. Use the configuration library safely, and there are some web checklist also. We can see that as well. Now, the vulnerability using the known components, you can say, using the components with known vulnerabilities. So in this section, uh, we know if we are using some libraries or using some code, we are just copy pasting some existing codes. In that code, it may exist some vulnerability as well. Okay, so what happens? Attacker exploit those vulnerabilities, and then the malicious thing automatically happen. So modern application, what I said earlier, modern application contains the third-party code as well. You can say that JavaScript library is commonly used in many applications. Uh, the JavaScript version, that is JavaScript 1 version, 1 point something version, is very much vulnerable. In that section, we can say that uh, that is attacker may use those vulnerabilities and may attack or may the system get compromised. Okay, so we should use the latest version of the component. So in prevention, we can what we can do. So in prevention section, we can reduce the dependencies. Patch management is very much important. We should not use the outdated components, and maintain the software in repetitive manner. Okay. Now, insufficient logging and monitoring. Actually, what happens if we request some code, or if we send some request to the server, then server is automatically storing some logs. Okay. Or if it is not storing in that section, then that is very much vulnerable, because log is very much important for an application. That is, if someone tries to inject something that is not desired for that application, then the log will reflect that thing. Log should reflect those things. So it may be some stuff in the web server as well. It may be some stuff in the database server as well, and from other things, or user trying to view the other information of other user as well. So log monitoring is very much important for the server side as well, for the application side as well. So detecting the logs are important for detecting the incident, understanding what happened, proving who did something. So thank you, everyone. If you have some question, you can ask.
Thank you, Sanjay. There are a few questions over the chat.
Okay, sir.
You just have a check.
No, question the tools are free. Commercial question absolutely free. পরের question কি আছে? এটাই তো। Offline mode, we can use it. Proxy proxy can be used in offline also. Okay, and that is we have already installed proxy in this application, and I am connected this machine. The machine is not connected with the internet as well. I am showing you. That is here I am using a local application. Or if we type google.com, it won't work. If we turn off that as well, so you can use the proxy locally as well, but you have to download it from the internet before you are getting to the offline. Any more queries?
Okay, Sanjay, I believe there are no more queries available. Thank you very much. You have shown a practical approach how OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities can be exploited and can be found out, and how the auditors do the application security for OWASP. Thank you very much, Sanjay.
Thank you, sir.